Welcome to my channel. Darren's Villaging and More presents Lemax Lighted Accessory. Santa's here, reimagined for 2025. This lighted accessory was introduced in 2022 and at the time of filming has not been retired. Thanks to the Lemax Collection website, the approximate dimensions of this figure are 2.68 inches high by 4.45 inches wide and 1.34 inches deep. I'm actually a big fan of this lighted accessory. I've had the full-size version since 1993. Come join me as I recreate some of my childhood nostalgia by removing that hyper white LED and replacing it with warm white. Welcome to the bench! Here we have the Lemax lighted accessory, Santa's Here. And I'm going to break this down. So looking around, there is some glue only around the base. So this figure's pretty easy to break down. Using my hook pick tool, I'm going to hold it in place while I use high heat from my hairdryer to loosen any glue or epoxy. I want to make sure the figure is good and warm and probably heat it for 15 to 30 seconds. Okay, so that should be plenty warm, so let's see if we can pull them apart, and there he goes. This figure has what I would call a prism on the inside that is used to transfer the light from the LED in the base up through the figure evenly. This is a very clever and nice design, and it's one that Lemax has started using more regularly on some of their more modern pieces. With a little bit more heat, I was able to remove the prism and we can see a surface mount LED. Again, wonderful to see new technology versus a domed, just simple round LED. Granted, this does make it a little bit more challenging to replace, but not much. The overall design is quite simple. With the LED removed, I'm going to remove the battery box next. With every accessory that I work on, be it Christmas or Halloween, I always remove the battery box. I hardwire everything, so I don't need the battery box. Using my hairdryer and high heat, I'll just go around the edges just to soften the glue or epoxy that is holding the battery box together. Then I will be able to just pop off the back. Sometimes it gives a little bit of a fight. And with that off, I'll be pulling out this DC jack. Now, they use a significant amount of glue most of the time on the bottom, and you have to work that out, and I'm using a hook pick tool to do so, at which point the jack will just pop up and free. Once it's free, I'll remove any excess wires that I don't need, leave the old resistors behind because I'm going to be putting new resistors on the new LEDs, and hardwire this directly. I can honestly say removing the battery boxes and hardwiring saves significant space when working in any village setting. My Halloween village, for example, has almost 30 lighted accessories that I have rewired, reimagined, and removed all of their battery boxes. When making these solder connections, I often use my helping hand. Simply hold everything in place so I can strip back the wires and solder appropriately. After everything is soldered together, I'll use a large piece of heat shrink, which I am currently out of, to cover everything on the end and heat with my lighter and seal it like an envelope. This will ensure no possible shorts. Taking a quick look at the LED, we can see that it's labeled with positive and negative, so we already know great information, and if you were to cut these off already and didn't know, you could use a multimeter and very easily determine what is what. I wanted to start with the positive leg of this and snip it off and unwind it a bit. I'm then going to cut it at an offset further down because I put the resistor right before the LED. So I'm going to need that extra space. Now that the positive side is easily identifiable, I'm just go ahead and snip off the LED and dispose of it. Now let's take a quick look at our new LED. The previous LED was the surface mount LED on ribbon with solder points. The LEDs that I purchased off of Amazon are just the LEDs themselves, and they are quite small. In fact, there it is. There is no ribbon, there will be no solder points that would be easily accessible for soldering. There are solder points on the LED on the bottom side. So let's go ahead and focus in and get this connected. The next part of this process is to attach the resistor to the positive leg of the circuit. I'm using my hands to hold this in place as this is very light soldering. And you can see I have the positive wire coming from the power source as close to the resistor as possible. I have placed a piece of heat shrink onto the wire prior to attaching the resistor so I can secure it in place. Now we can see that the resistor and the negative side are about equal, which is perfect. And looking at our LED, we can, if I can get it to focus, there we go, we can see our contact points that we'll be soldering to. Now, when making these solder connections, you could use a helping hand or a pair of alligator pliers, maybe an assistant when doing this. I am going to actually be soldering this directly while it's sitting on my bench. But first, as you can see, I'm doing a quick polarity check just to make sure I have the positive and negative side correct. According to the LEDs that I purchased, there is a notch that with my vision, I can't see, to indicate what is positive and negative of the LED. I attempted to solder this directly while sitting on my bench, and it did not go according to plan. So I have pulled out my helping hand tool, I've rechecked polarity, I'm applying a little bit of flux, and I'll be using that as a stabilizing force to hold that tiny little LED in place while I make these connections. Since I'm using flux, these connections are made very easily and quickly. Both of the solder points will be exposed when the LED is in the base of the Santa figure, and that's okay as the LED will be completely secured and insulated by hot glue. Once I finish up with the solder connections, I'll trim off any excess with a pair of clippers. With everything cleaned up, let's just do a quick power check, and then we can move on to reassembling Santa's Here. Welcome to the final leg of this project. The first thing I'm going to do is disconnect the power, so we're not blinding ourselves with the LED when installing it. Next, we're going to pull back the Lemax sticker and insert the LED to check fitment. You want to make sure that the LED is going to be in the same place or as close to the same place as the original LED as possible. Remember, this has a prism that illuminates the figure from within. So if that LED is off, the illumination may not be quite right. Working it around, I have the LED where I want it. Now I'm going to secure the wires on the back of this by adding more glue. However, I need to make sure I remove any of the original glue first, and there was a small bead left. So, just an excess dab of glue and laying the wires in, and then the sticker over, and sliding my finger across, everything's now nice and flush. I'll put a bead of glue on the prism and apply it to the base. And now, just another bead of glue on the base of Santa, and now he looks almost as he did when we first started. So let's move on to our final reveal. Let's take a quick look at the before, and now the after. Short of him being 3 inches tall, he looks just like my 5-foot blow mold that I use at Christmas. I'm really happy with how this turned out. So tell me in the comments, what did you think about this? Would you have done something different with this project? Or would you have maybe left him alone? I like the warm white of nostalgia. And for my Christmas village this year, it is Holiday Hills. So I need to eliminate as much hyper white as possible. If you like this video, like and subscribe for more. Happy holidays and thanks for watching. Lemax Accessory, Santa's Here Reimagined.